Hi, welcome to Record Time. Record Time is a place where we explore mysterious and simple questions through the lens of the Akashic Records. And today's topic or question, I guess it's less of a question, is how to reframe big decisions. So, yeah, it's all about Akashic perspective, just offering you a different perspective to consider when you're making a big decision. So I'm going to tune into this, and as I do that, please feel free, if it's safe and accessible, to close your eyes and come into a state of receptivity so you can just feel the energetic transmission that goes along with the words that I'm going to share with you. So oftentimes, when we have decisions to make, big or small, our focus is usually what's the right choice, right? What do I do? Which one should I pick? Which one's right? And that's kind of like the underlying tone of the task at hand, which is deciding. It's how do I know what the right thing is, and how do I choose the right thing, and what is the right thing to do? So what the masters, teachers, and loved ones are saying is, what they're offering to us is that sometimes when we make decisions, it's not really about figuring out which one's right. You're not choosing between right and wrong. You're actually choosing between right and right. And that could sound a little bit like trite or silly or almost like foolish, where it's like, yeah, there's no wrong decision. It's all right. There's only good outcomes, right? It's all love from Akashic perspective, which is like, okay, thanks for that useless bit of information. But that's not really how they're meaning it to sound. What they're saying is, they're acknowledging that, yeah, sometimes you're choosing between what's right and wrong from the human perspective. And they're honoring the fact that we experience things as right and wrong most of the time. But they're saying not all decisions are like that. So like, yeah, that does happen sometimes. You are choosing between right and wrong. And sometimes when you're weighing between two options, one will have positive outcomes and one might have predominantly negative outcomes or consequences. So they're not, disregarding that. So those decisions, those kinds of decisions do exist, but a lot of the time, more often than we realize, that's not the case. A lot of the time, we're actually choosing between two right options, two right paths, two positive possibilities. And they're saying we're using two for simplicity. But yeah, some decisions have more than two options. But usually we can narrow it down to two. Maybe you'll have some more. But yeah, sometimes it feels like, especially, they're saying this is very apparent when there's two choices, it feels like right and wrong. When you actually have more than two options, it doesn't feel quite as definitive, like one is right, one is wrong. And they're saying a lot of times when we're making decisions, we're informed by the fear of making the wrong choice, right? And I'm sure that's relatable for me, like that, what they're saying, like, yeah, a fear of making the wrong choice is very present in my life when I make decisions. It's like a fear of doing something wrong. Like, if I make this choice, what if it's the wrong choice? And what if it fucks up everything, Like, what if this really has some detrimental consequences down the road that I can't even think of now, that I'm not even aware of at this moment. And so sometimes, especially with big decisions, it feels scary. And when it's a big decision and there's two options, the fear of making the wrong choice is very apparent. It's very alive in ourselves when we're like confronting this decision. But they're asking us to consider, in those moments where you can feel the fear and the stress of potentially making the wrong decision, to play with this idea that like maybe there isn't a wrong decision, maybe both of them are right. Maybe both of them will lead to positive things, and maybe both of these paths could be fruitful, could be joyful, and could be really abundant and exciting. And they're saying, and in reality, like for practical purposes, most likely what the case is that these two things, neither one is right or wrong. They're both probably right in the sense that they will both probably unfold to reveal some very positive things, and they might have some negative things too. And they're like, that's probably more than likely the case, but in ourselves, in our being, when we confront these decisions, it feels like one is right, absolutely correct, and one is wrong. And you don't want to mix them up. You don't want to accidentally choose the one that is all wrong, because you want to choose the one that is like all right and perfect. But really, that's rarely the case. Decisions are rarely so black and white. And they're saying, don't be a victim of the duality that is so deeply ingrained in us. When we see, like, it's like when humans come up against or confronted by two of anything, it feels like one is one extreme and one is the other extreme. It's our nature to kind of like really separate them distinctly, like one is black, one is white, one is right, one is wrong, one is on, one is off, north, south, like that. It's just like so polarized. When really it's like not every decision is choosing between the most extreme ends of the spectrum. Sometimes your choices might actually be right here. They're actually really close together. Or they might be over here, like very on this side. Both of them are actually pretty similar on this side, closer to, right than wrong. Or maybe both of them are wrong. That's also a potential possibility, but usually we're not really choosing between things like that. But I guess that's where the phrase like the lesser of two evils comes from. That kind of describes that sort of situation. But yeah, they're saying like play with the idea that the decisions you're making, the choices you have, aren't extremes. And play with the idea that you really can't make a mistake, because more than likely both options will lead to something good, and maybe they'll have some challenges along the way, but that's life. And that's what keeps it interesting too. And that those challenges are actually, they're saying every time you come upon a challenge that leads to another fork in the road or another divergence of possible timelines. So they're like, you should welcome the challenges, because that's what's giving you more options. Because if everything was running smoothly forever and ever, you would never really have to make another decision. But that's like the exciting thing. That's where you get to exercise your free will, is when you get to make decisions. And challenges are the things that bring about the opportunity to make decisions. So welcome the challenges and play with the idea that your options aren't right and wrong, they're right and right. And you're choosing between joy and joy, and you're choosing between good and good, because that is the case. Okay. I believe that's all for today. That's where we're going to end for today. I hope that that made sense, and I hope that empowers you to relax into your decision-making process and to take some of that pressure off of yourself. And instead of feeling like every decision is a do or die situation where it's going to make or break your life, recognize the possibility that neither one of these things are really going to make or break your life, because you can always choose again. And there will always be more options, and they're saying you can always circle back too. You're never really writing anything off forever. Like, you don't need to fear making the wrong decision. It's not really serving you to think of your options that way. All right. I am sending you so much love, and I'm wishing you well until next time. I'll see you next week, next Wednesday at 7 p.m. CST. Namaste.